Josh McDaniels entering his second year as the Saints head coach. Last year, he took a chance with Matt Leinart at starting quarterback after he had a tough time with the Buffalo Bills when he was drafted by them in 2006. Leinart ended up leading the Saints to the worst record in the league, which allowed them to have the number 1 overall pick. I put a lot of thought into who should be number 1 overall, whether it should be Sam Bradford or Tim Tebow. Now, a smart person would pick Sam Bradford, but I thought Josh McDaniels, not too smart of a coach. And I thought because Josh McDaniels did trade up for Tim Tebow, that there was a desire to bring Tebow on. But like I mentioned in the draft, there was a lot of factors that played into me thinking through, is it even possible to have drafted Tebow over Bradford? And I found articles about why Tebow was better than Bradford and why Tebow would have a longer career than Bradford. One of the major ones was that Tebow and Bradford had similar stats. Tebow had more stats, more touchdowns, less interceptions, more yards. However, he played about 2 more seasons than Bradford. So Bradford's shorter stint in college may have looked better than Tebow's. However, Tebow was healthy, where Bradford was not. So I'm saying that McDaniels saw that when Florida and Oklahoma went head-to-head, Tebow won. When Bradford was out with an injury, Tebow was playing. And so I figured that even though the Heisman did go to Bradford, that Tebow was one of those players that McDaniels would have thought of as, yeah, you know what? I'm going to outsmart the league here. I'm going to get Tim Tebow. So Tim Tebow is the number 1 overall pick in my 2010 draft, and he is going to be the starter for this Saints offense with Matt Leinart, who is the backup, and both quarterbacks are left-handed. So that's a unique kind of strategy there. Now for running back, they have Felix Jones, who was the first-round pick in 2008. He sort of shared carries with Deuce McAllister in 2008, 2009. Last year, Felix Jones was the official starter for the New Orleans Saints. And in doing so, he did fairly well. He had 1,147 yards and 7 touchdowns. He very easily could be the starting running back again, but I decided to go for LaDainian Tomlinson to give them more of a spark in their running back core. Problem is, LaDainian Tomlinson is recovering off of that gruesome injury, and I've lowered his injury and toughness, so he does get hurt frequently. So I'm debating whether I have Tomlinson start with Felix Jones backing him up when he gets hurt, or if I just start Felix Jones and use Tomlinson in special situations. So still working out the logistics on how I'm going to use that running back core. But I do have Ryan Touraine and Pierre Thomas as 2 other running backs. Touraine, who I believe was a fullback originally and just moved him over to halfback. Ideally, Touraine probably could be in that Fiametta fullback position. As for wide receivers, they drafted both Sonoris Moss in the 2nd round and Brandon Marshall in the 4th round back in 2000. Let me see when that draft was. Hold on 1 second. Let me double check. In 2006. So 2006, it was the 11th overall pick was Sonoris Moss. And then we had Brandon Marshall in the 4th round. And so Brandon Marshall, of course, has stayed, whereas Sonoris Moss moved on. But Brandon Marshall, of course, as we all would expect, has been quite reliable for the Saints. Now, of course, they did trade for Antonio Bryant. That was part of the Deuce McAllister trade. So they got a top wide receiver, or at least in their minds, in place of an aging running back. And that was a trade between them and the Denver Broncos. They did draft Kenny Britt in the 2nd round of last year. So Kenny Britt might be getting some opportunities there, along with Early Doucette, who was a 3rd-round pick in 2008, and David Nelson, who was a rookie this year and 6th-round pick. One of their best picks there is Andrew Whitworth, left tackle, as you can see, X Factor. Josh Sitton, who was also a 2nd round, 2008 selection. Daniel Coppin. Lee Charles Bentley, he never had that real gruesome injury he had in real life, so he's still been a prominent offensive guard. Superstar, 85 overall. Their right tackle is probably their weak spot. We see Roto, who was signed as a free agent this offseason, just getting someone in that position. Probably will look for maybe a right tackle in next year's draft or next offseason. Also, they do have Greg Olsen there in 2007. He is, of course, a reliable offensive target for them. I needed some more depth, so I drafted 2 tight ends, Fendi Anobin and Anthony McCoy, and they're the backup tight ends for the Saints. Then on defense, they do have, let's see, which Joseph is that? Linval Joseph. So Linval Joseph there at defensive tackle. You see he has the hidden dev. Really excited to see how he turns out. They do have, I believe it's Michael Johnson. Yep, a 4th-round pick in 2009. And then they signed Javon Kearse, even though they do have Adam Carricker as well, who was a 2007 draft choice. So they do have some decent young prospects on their defensive line, but they do need some time to develop. Kearse is that veteran that they signed who's been a very dominant pass rusher for, I believe, for the Titans, I believe. He's been with the Cardinals. Now he's with the Saints. Linebackers, they have Trent Cole, who could also be seen as a pass rusher, but he is a outside linebacker in the 3-4 setting. Kevin Burnett, solid outside linebacker. There's also Jasper Brinkley and Pat Angerer. Angerer was a 2nd-round pick, 1st overall in this year's draft. As you can see, he's probably not going to pan out. Very low overall there. They did draft Aaron Curry in the 1st round back in 2009. In last year's draft, already he is being sort of replaced as that starting linebacker because he does not turn into anything special in real life like he did. He was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in real life. He is a 5th overall pick, but likely going to be a bust. Then for DBs, we see Brandon Flowers, William Gay. We see even Randall Gay. And then I'm trying to remember which Williams that is. Kerry Williams, another star dev cornerback for the Saints pass defense. There's Jeremiah Bell and I believe Mike Brown at safeties. Definitely an area they need to fix is their safeties and middle linebackers. 2 important needs to address. Then as for special teamers, they have 2 young ones, Brandon Colquitt and Mason Crosby, So those 2 are Britton Colquitt, was drafted in 2009. He was the 7th-round pick for them, and Mason Crosby was a 6th-round pick in 2007. So let me know what you think of the Saints. Are they going to be picking top 5 again next year, or will they turn it around and will Tebow time take place here in New Orleans? And figures Tim Tebow with the Saints. Number 15 is held by Brandon Marshall, so Tim Tebow will be wearing number 13. I chose 13 because Tebow is the 1 and the Holy Trinity is the 3, which makes up the number 13. I thought it was cute. Hope you do too. Anyway, thanks for watching and look forward to this upcoming year.